Oh, and we're live. And I think Erin has actually got a functional microphone now. Erin,
Maybe. We'll see. Did it change in the 30 seconds between backstage and here?
maybe. No, it
Maybe.
sounds fine right now. It's moderately decent. Welcome everybody. Thank you for joining us for another episode of Dev Relish. We are YouTube's top show that combines DevRel and fermentation. I mean, nobody else is really doing
I
it.
mean, no one else. But honestly, I will take it. That's exactly how you win elections in some countries, is you're just one out of one. So if it's fair in politics, it's fair in my
Yeah,
book too. But that's a very wide range these
yeah.
days.
I mean, I can't believe people haven't, like the rest of the world, hasn't caught on to the deep connection between pickles and DevRel.
Oh,
But
rude, rude.
but thanks everybody for joining. We've got Kelly Vaughn with us today. So we're going to be talking about, well, your role at Spot AI. We're going to be talking about like management fundamentals. We're going to be talking about what it takes to be a dev, like is a DevRel. Does a DevRel have to actually have a DevRel title? Can you be DevRel-ish and not even be in a DevRel role? Yeah, all those fun things. So should be great conversation. Welcome, Kelly.
Thanks for having me. If you didn't notice in the 30 seconds I was back, I actually put my headline in there, so I'm not a mysterious Kelly Vaughn. You know which Kelly Vaughn I am.
Yeah. I mean, like, how many Kelly Vaughns are there on the internet? Because
Actually, things that I know. There was somebody who played in one of the Batman movies, whose also name is Kelly Vaughn. And then 30 minutes from me, there's a dentist named Kelly Vaughn. And I know this because I almost went to that dentist just so I could say, like, yes, my name is Kelly Vaughn. Like, no. Like, what's the name of your dentist? Anyway, I was going to have fun with it. And I decided to not drive 30 minutes.
fun fact, that actually is a reason that my husband is good friends with the former creative director of Ogilvy, because the former creative director of Ogilvy is Joe Staples, and he got really drunk at a hotel room, and LinkedIn requested him and said, "You should hire me because we have the same name." 6 years ago.
I love that.
Now they text regularly and talk about streetwear and office supplies. So, career advice starts here. But
Yeah.
yeah,
So is the advice to change your, like, look up who the hiring manager is,
Change your
formally
name.
Legally change your name. Yep.
Okay.
Send a drunken LinkedIn request. That's it.
Yeah. I mean,
Hey, that's our show
look,
today.
nothing else is working right now for folks. I know, like in DevRel and in engineering in general, like it's bad days right now. DevRel especially. Oh my God, I feel bad. Like it's really, really rough out there. I don't know if there's any folks in the audience who are like looking for jobs, but I know
It's interesting
it's
times.
bad. It is
It's,
bad times
I
in
would say
DevRel.
it's interesting though, also because the skills that I think, like, I look back at, like, I mean, my first job I got in DevRel was an accident, like many other DevRels. I actually, before I was in DevRel, that's how I met Kelly, was before I was in DevRel and working in ecom. So fun fact, Kelly and I think we're actually at the Shopify Unite in Canada one year together, but didn't know each other at the time.
We didn't know. Yeah.
And didn't know, and then ended up working for a couple of agencies that worked with, that's a lot of the original Netlify crew. And Kelly and I was like, I'm just lowly product manager here, and I think I want to do this tech thing. And then I actually interviewed Kelly for a grad school project, and then we were like, I guess we're friends now at the end.
That's it.
That was it. And
you
then,
opened the door.
Now we just hang out and our husbands talk about cars together.
And you supply me with an unlimited supply of sausage.
Yeah. These are, and then I get to talk about engineering things as well. But flashback, I think that actually also, when we start this DevRel-ish show, we were like, okay, there's DevRel and then there's all the ish. And I think the ish is actually what people are getting hired for these days. Or I actually know a few DevRels that are looking to leave their DevRel job because they're like, I can make more money doing the DevRel shit on my side and just be a product manager or an engineer. And so they're actually stealing. I know two people who've stolen engineering folks' jobs because they're like, look, I have the chops in engineering, but I just don't want to shill myself on the internet for a company, and I'd rather go be an engineer full time.
Yeah, and there's a huge crossover between DevRel and product management for sure.
And I think it's something that it's been more noticed. Like, I get more the more senior I've gotten in DevRel, the more years it's been, the more that's been a favor on my resume than like a hindrance. Like when I first started, they were like, "What do you, product manager, want to be in the engineering team for? Get lost. Like, what are you going to do? Sign me Jira tickets?" And I'm like, "No, I actually don't want to babysit engineers anymore." So like that's why I'm not trying to be in product management.
You know why that is though? It's
Hmm.
because they're looking at engineers now to have product experience. Because product managers or folks who spend time in product really understand the business case behind everything. And as we move into this world where like we're working in a lot more technical space, a lot of us tend to work in a lot more technical space. And your customer, you need to be able to relay a lot of information to customers that tends to be a little bit more technical. And in doing so, you're able to like have that product experience, makes their life so much easier as an engineer. So I'm constantly seeing like job listings for engineers where it's expecting you to have like that product mindset.
Yeah, I
Not a
think
bad thing.
that's definitely I think that that's definitely helpful nowadays. And I also think like your point that a lot of people are kind of moving out of DevRel and into other types of roles. I think part of that's just the availability of DevRel jobs. Like there's not a lot of them right now. The competition is really, really stiff for those roles. I mean, I think that's true in general across, but it's probably more true in DevRel, which because a lot of DevRel teams end up falling in marketing, right? That's kind of the most common place I've seen. Although I've seen them in product, I've seen them in different places, but usually end up in marketing. And I always feel like having been through a numerous of these ups and downs in technology over 25 plus years I've been doing this stuff. I always find the first thing companies do is they cut down, they trim marketing, they cut marketing back
Mhm.
heavily. And then, because it's hard to cut back engineering because then you're not going to hit your targets for, all the things you want to release. But I can cut marketing and not feel immediate pain, right? And then a year from now they'll end up being like, "Hey, what happened to our funnel? Our funnel is like dried up, and people also seem to like hate us now and think we're terrible." And because like the opinions of our company have gone in the toilet. Like, what happened? Oh yeah, we don't have marketing anymore. Um, so and then it comes back. They ramp up too much, and we repeat the cycle.
Mhm.
Yeah,
A lot of it is long tail, and that's half the
yeah,
problem. Like if you don't
yeah.
see that immediate ROI, you're like, "Where I'm not getting value out of this."
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
And this
So
is why, and actually, so this is something I recently started stealing from. I started it at my last job when I changed managers, and then I made a really intentional purpose to make sure that I did it off the gate this job. And it's a trick I actually learned from journalism world because we all know how relevant my journalism degree is to the day-to-day work that I do. But in the journalism world, it was always advocated in my master's degree. They were like, if you're going to move into a leadership position and you want to keep, because journalism is, as you know, a very stable and well-paid industry. Jokes, jokes. But one of the things they said, if you're moving into a management role or a leadership role in the newsroom, make sure that you don't lose empathy for the journalist and prove that you still can have you flex those muscles. So they always encouraged first time editors, directors, or anytime that you're moving onto that product side in a newsroom to still write the occasional publication and still write the occasional article because you can prove to everybody there that you can still do the work. And I think I started at Lunch Sharkly. I did it here. And it was now my new thing is watch, I can still ship production quality code. And having just a simple PR merged, even if it's something little, it's like, you can't fight me because I technically contributed.
I just contributed. I've
Like,
opened one PR at Spot the entire time I've been here. I think I've told you about this. I was just renaming Office 365 to Microsoft 365. That was the extent of my code contribution. Am I capable
yeah,
of doing so? Yes. Am I too busy? Also, yes.
yeah. I had like one time in when I was like an engineer, not a DevRel. One of my tasks like was to basically change one word throughout this entire site. Which yeah, I can't remember what the word was, but I had a whole funny thing about it. It was the most boring job I've ever had as an engineer, by the way. And I don't mean just that. I mean in general, that's the kind of tasks I get. I'd go to my boss. I'm like, listen, I'm super bored. I've got nothing to do. Like all these things are super easy. He's like, oh, I've got this big project that's going to take 2 weeks. He'd hand it to me, and I'd like write some script and have it done. I'm like an hour or two later. I'm like, hey, I'm done. Wait, what else do you need? But yeah,
No way.
yeah. So I would be an expert at making PR merges for word changes. It's kind of
Hey,
it's my
I got
critical
a
skill.
like someone, I don't remember the company. They don't no longer exist. I think they got acquired by someone. There's an open source project that I made a contribution to, mostly because they had a typo on like their landing page or their docs page. And I was like, I've seen this like 5 times. I'm gonna just fix it real quick. And they were like, oh my goodness, when they got acquired, they sent me a care package and was like, thank you so much for being part of our journey. And I'm like, I fixed it one time ago, and I don't even think I can care back. I'm so sorry.
You're so welcome.
It's like, you're so welcome. Congrats on your journey. You did so good. God, I fixed that typo.
I mean, I got into DevRel, by the way, to get away from doing production code. So.
Yeah, I got into management for the same reason. I dabble at this point. Like that's side projects and whatnot when I do have time to do so. But it's just that's where I'm better off spending my time.
So I think
So
like
on that note, actually, like we didn't even we kind of skipped introductions. We didn't talk about like what you do, where we usually talk with people about their career trajectory into DevRel, but obviously you're director of engineering. So like tell us about how you got there and even a little bit of your perspective on like how these kind of DevRel-ish aspects have fit into your roles.
Yeah. So it starts all the way back when I was 11 years old when I taught myself how to code from a book called HTML Goodies. I had
I
my
remember that one.
own account on Neopets, and I wanted to make my guild pretty. And in order to do so, I needed to learn how to code. So my dad bought me that book. I started freelancing when I was 14 years old. The first project I ever did was actually an online catalog, not e-commerce, because this was a long time ago. I'm not going to put years to this one. And I was paid a t-shirt. Really good deal. It was like an extra large, and I'm like the child, so I can give it two of me in this thing. And then I continued to freelance all through high school, undergrad, grad school. I have a tendency to say that I don't want to do a thing, and then I end up doing it anyway. Like that is like how I summarize my career. So I never wanted to go into software engineering as a career, because if I was going to do it and I had to do it, I was going to hate it. So I have 3 degrees from University of Georgia, go Dogs, bachelor's psychology, and then 2 master's degrees in public health and clinical social work. Basically, I'm a trained therapist. And all through undergrad and grad school, I'm still coding. In 2014, I happened to stumble upon a tweet from somebody saying, hey, I need an extra set of hands for some freelance work. And I'm like, I'm a poor college student, like sign me up. And so he sent me WordPress sites. And at some point he's like, hey, I have this site. It's on a platform called Shopify. I know you've never used it before, but do you want to explore it and like take on this project? I'm like, yeah, sure. This sounds great. Loved it immediately, which is funny, over 10 years ago, because the platform was in such an infancy state. Yeah.
Liquid.
It was, learning Liquid, but also like you have to code directly into the code editor. Like there was nothing. Yeah. And so the Shopify partner program, the experts program, had recently launched, and I was able to become a Shopify expert, be one of the first in the Southeast, because you had to launch 5 stores. And so I made a deal with the guy I was getting freelance work from. I was like, pay me less money. Let me sign up these stores under my account. And then we both become experts. We're going to get even more work. And it worked. Basically, when I graduated from grad school, I started a fellowship at the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention as an informatics fellow. And they required somebody who had their master's in public health, who also knew how to code. And 2 weeks into the fellowship, they're like, so you were the only applicant. And I'm like, great. Good confidence booster. Love that. And so I was like balling on the fellowship a stipend of $45,000 a year, also making more freelancing during this time. So I'm like, why am I doing both of these things? Well, let me just go freelance. And so when I could get on my husband's health insurance after we got married, I left the fellowship program, went full time on my own. So this is 2015. In 2016, MailChimp featured me as a freelance success story. So this is like in my wins folder forever. And in this article, in this interview, I said I never want to start an agency because I want to always do like the fun freelance thing. Not even a month later, I was like, I want to start an agency, as I do. And so 9 months later, the Tap Room became an official thing. And so I rebranded to the Tap Room, grew that to about 25 people globally. COVID hits, and obviously a bunch of businesses needed to get online really quickly. And so we got really busy really fast. Meanwhile, we're also moving up market at the same time. And so time to close was increasing, and I burned myself out. I also kind of worked myself out of a job in 2021. And so I took a 1 month sabbatical. And as I do in this 1 month sabbatical where I'm supposed to be taking a break, I co-found another company. This one was venture backed. So we raised a small round in three weeks when, people are like, oh, you breathe, here's some money, go build something. And so I did that for a little while, and then trying to do both of them at the same time was just not a good idea. Shocker, you should not run two companies at the same time. And finally, I was just like, I am so beyond burned out at this point that I need to stop. And so I shut down my agency. I left my startup, and I joined Spot all within a week of each other. It was a very, very quick week in 2022. And so here I am almost 3 years later, at Spot as director of engineering. I oversee product and engineering for our video management system product. And I'm also our IT person, and I also do all of our security stuff. So I've just submitted all of our documentation for SOC 2 for the third time, and I am tired. The end. There's my life story.
I was going to say, there's a lot of ish in that journey. Like, I think things you didn't mention is you ran a pretty successful, it was like one of the top courses on Maven. Also run a very popular newsletter, and have a decent social following on all of the platforms. And I think that's just like important to call out, because I think the reason that, like, if I can say, like, the reason like you've been probably so successful is something that like is the same reason that companies hire DevRel in many ways. Is that like personal interaction and like being online in a time where people don't want to be online. Yeah. Being perpetually online. It is definitely, I've got a pretty large following on LinkedIn, and the other site I no longer use. And I do run a course on Maven called Management Fundamentals for Tech Leaders, or Management Fundamentals for the Modern Leader. I rebranded it. I also have a self-paced version of that course as well, if you don't want to take it live, or I don't have a session that works for you. I run a newsletter called The Modern Leader as well, where I talk about, leadership principles and how, how anybody can be a leader. You don't have to be a manager to be a leader.
I like how she called your following on social decent. It's decent.
Decent.
I'll take it.
It's a decent following.
It's always so funny because I don't spend nearly as much time on social media as I did in like 2018, 2019 when my following.
Me neither.
And so I just forget about it. I often just forget it's there. And then somebody comes across my account, or like one of my old tweets from 2018 goes viral again. And I start getting messages from people I know in person or people from work being like, were you keeping a huge secret from us? Like, what is going on here? And I'm like, nope, I'm not keeping any secrets from you. That doesn't exist. Just close the tab. Just forget about it.
I would like to have an indecent following. That would be a lot more fun, though. Like, don't you think?
I mean, like, depending on, like, I've definitely had a few of my Reddit accounts pop up for fighting in subreddits and arguing with people on the internet. So does that count as an indecent following? There we go. We'll take it.
Actually, no, I take it back. Erin follows me, so I already have my indecent following.
I follow both of you, so you're screwed. That's what I mean.
Perfect. We'll take it.
Yeah.
But I think, like, it's interesting because like if you're in a director of engineering, I don't think in a director of engineering role, I don't think they ask you like, what is your social account? Where I literally, when I was last like in the interview process, I had people being like, do you promise to use Twitter? Because it was the time where people were starting to use Twitter. And I'm like, do you promise to like, why do you care about this so much? Or
Yep.
I've had companies be like, Erin, you're too political online. I'm like, well, then I'm not going to work here either then, but we don't see, does that same critique even exist if you're on the engineering side?
It yes and no. It exists when you already have a large presence. Because I represent the company I work for, and the company I work for represents me. Whether I like it or not, this is part of having a large following. And somebody sees, my profile from some posts that I've made, they can see where I work. And therefore there is an affiliation that happens there. But it's the same way. If something is posted on our company account, and you go to view on like our page on the company LinkedIn, and you can see like I work there, that association has also been made the that reverse way, which means like anything the company posts, I am basically advocating for because of my presence, and vice versa.
Hmm. I would agree with that. I think that that's even part of, I am a now, I guess there was this group last night, kind of taking a little tangent here. There's a group last night that we have in here in Orlando. They're tech optimists, and they come and they talk about tech optimism. It's a whole thing, I guess. I don't know. And I'm like, I was going there because I help run a lot of groups here, and I just support them. I don't not a member. And I just giving them access to the building, and I'm like, yeah, I can't join this group anyway. I'm a tech pessimist right now. Like, but I think, yeah, but I think it's my point there is it really is important. Like, is you do have that dual association, and unfortunately, a lot of these companies are doing things that it's like I don't want my name associated with it, especially if you're
Exactly.
a DevRel, like you're there, like that is your public presence is like you
Yes.
is the company. And so the things they do can tarnish you as well.
Exactly. And in a lot of companies, I mean, when it comes to marketing, company-led branding doesn't work the same way as it did a long time ago. It is employee-led branding for the company, which is why you see a lot more people posting individual stories. You're not going to be getting as much out of like the company saying, "Here's this great thing we built and you're going to love it," versus having an engineer or an engineering leader post something and saying like, here's something our team built and we absolutely love it, and here's why you'll like it as well. And then you see friends post about it, or you just see your friends show up in the videos posted from the company, almost like a little behind the scenes thing, and it's going to bring a lot more attention to the brand. That
Yeah.
company led branding just doesn't work anymore.
Which is,
Yeah.
I guess, a good case for if you are in DevRel and you want to go back towards like an engineering role or a leadership role or a product role or marketing role, like those kind of things. I think all those are strengths you built in your DevRel career that can still benefit you in those kind of roles. So I'd say
Yep.
like play them up when you talk to the company. Like not only can I code, but I can be a strong advocate for everything we built, even as an engineer.
But
Yeah.
I think also in that case, and Kelly, I don't know if you had this, but I had my last two contracts. I was a comedian making money in my comedy career when I applied for jobs. And usually, when you have your list of prior inventions, you don't normally put down comedy. But because I pay taxes on it and I technically own the IP for it, I put down comedy. And it came with a double edged sword. I have been asked to perform comedy for free at a lot of conferences.
Oh, nope.
Or I have been asked, and I mean, I very fortunately, like Launch Darkly actually sponsored one of my comedy shows. It was great, but I got paid for it. And we had wrote a separate agreement out, and I had to get sign off from legal because I was like, I can do this, but this is outside of my scope of work at my day job. Or like I do expect compensation in some way, shape, form.
Yep.
But I think going back, it's like also having a manager that gets that is really important. Like I've been politically active in my career. I did have a career in politics. I still am active in the Democratic Socialist group here in New York City, very involved, part of the Sunrise Project movement. And I do, like, you can look me up. There is political work on my work history, and it's work that I'm proud of. And some employers will not hire me because of it.
Yeah.
I've had two companies that have been like, you've worked as a lobbyist, we will not hire you.
Yep.
And I'm like,
I've seen that.
okay. But it can go both ways, because my current manager also had a previous career in politics and also does get that system. So there's a little more vetting that has to go into that.
There is. And anytime you bring politics into a conversation, there's going to be some division that happens there. But like, if your resume shows that you supported any particular candidate or a political party, there's going to be bias naturally that occurs, whether you agree with it or not. You know, if I see somebody who, worked on like if I saw your resume, I'd be like, oh, cool, we're actually going to get along for a lot of reasons. But if I saw somebody who worked, like, let's say they worked at on like the RNC like campaign or something like that, like, I'm going to have a different feeling about that when I know like a job is a job sometimes. But typically, your political leaning does play into your everyday life. Like, that is just that is human nature. We can't separate those two.
I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing in many ways. Like, I think we really talk about this whole attitude. I used to have a friend who ran a podcast called Spill It, and it was on wage transparency. And she would invite people on, and she'd be like, "Will you talk about your salary publicly? I want to know your total comp, and I want to know like your contracts in each 5 years." And you had to the speakers would have to actually submit their offer letters, and it created these really great conversations. I loved it. Shout out Tiffany; she's now at Spotify, crushing it. But really, I think it creates these like conversations that like there's a very different feel when we're just honest about it versus sweeping it under the rug or under the table. Like,
absolutely.
I always tell companies like, I do volunteer. One of the groups I work with is political based organization. However, they're nonpartisan. They are on access to vote. Given the state of things, that's now become a partisan issue, but that's a whole other conversation. And literally all they're doing is increasing access to the polls and helping people understand when to register, when is your last day of registration, and helping folks fact check things at the polls. And I had a company that was like, I know that you're doing this and it's nonpartisan, but like, we would really prefer, like, we don't care that you do this, but make sure that you are not wearing any logos, any swag, any materials, or identifying yourself as an employee of our company while you're doing this.
Yep.
And I was like, okay. And that was the 2020 election.
Yep. That's not surprising. I see it kind of slip through sometimes in some other, like, what some other people are posting online, that they don't even recognize that they're like, they might have employer branding on, and they go to vote and they just take a picture because they're proud of voting, and that association just now been made. Again, it's innocuous. Like, it's not meant to be something that's harmful, but everything is partisan. Also, I appreciate the fact that we're really leaning into the ish side of Dev Relish.
We always lean into the ish.
The casual learning conversation. We haven't gotten to the fermenting chapter yet.
But I do think it's important for like DevRel folks, because I mean, they are very public by nature. Like, so, and oftentimes public, not just like, that's part of what makes them good at their job is they're out there, but they're often out there with all sides of their lives, not just the job side of their lives. And like, it can follow you wherever you go. That being said, I mean, I think, I always think it's funny, like, there's this bit of a double standard, because like companies are like, you can't do this, and then you see the CEOs and whatever who were like, yeah, you just donated millions of dollars to like whatever, like thing. How's it okay for you? But that's a whole other topic as well. But I think it's
it goes both ways, right? Like, I've also seen DevRels who, we've all seen it, when someone gets laid off from their job, guess what? You are 20 times more visible if you're in that DevRel and you've been that face of the company.
Yep.
And we've seen them be like, fire off on Twitter, and even like we've gone around and deleted, or people who've said something and you're just like, whoa, trash opinion, dude. And that can equally kill your DevRel career. Like, I have had, there is someone that, I know that Brian and I had a conversation with, and we were just like, whoa, we are watching a fire burn. And we were just like, and then and it was someone, and they turned around and asked us for a job. And I was like,
You
I have
child.
I have no comments, because it's like, I don't know what to do at that point. But it goes both ways, and the world is so small that you don't know, like, people talk, and I think that's the thing is companies want, and like the reason you hire DevRel is in some ways is to get access to the back channel, right?
Yeah.
But that back channel is a double-edged sword, and it can be used in really great ways. Like I have definitely sent it. I've loved sales folks to death, but sometimes I had to be like, dude, can you please get off? You're being super, 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 super cringe. Stop. And that's usually most of the time it happens. But yeah, it's weird. Hey Wesley, yeah, great to have you.
Yeah,
Guess what?
Wesley is
DevRels are
one of
probably
those
the most
people like
gossipy. I'm not even gonna lie. Like we know the most people, so we're probably the most gossipy people.
it-
We'll get ready
but
for my
I
soapbox
think
another day
Wesley
on
knows
gossip.
this. Wesley knows this probably because I know he was involved in politics, if I recall, or like in and around Austin, if I recall correctly, Wesley. So maybe you feel this actually personally. Having that kind of follow you, it can be good, it can be bad. I mean, I guess it depends. I personally, I'm in a place in my career where thankfully I can feel like, you know what, if you feel like you look at some of the stuff and you see my personal feelings or political leanings or whatever, and I don't get the job, it probably wasn't a good fit anyway.
That's exactly the way I take it.
But yeah,
Yep.
yeah,
I wouldn't have enjoyed working here or working for you anyway.
right. Yes. So Wesley he ran for Austin City Council in 2016. Yeah. So, but yeah, but I also feel like, look, I know people right now who are super talented, who've been looking for months and months, right? Like, and there's just not a lot out there.
Yeah.
And at that point, like, and if you aren't, don't have the ability to kind of go along without a job, like it may be something that you're like, oh, that this is hurting me, and I can't undo it necessarily.
Yeah.
And I, maybe I would be willing to take that job even if it was a bad fit.
If you need the
Because
job, like it's a place of
yeah,
privilege. It's a place of privilege to be able to say, I am going to turn down this opportunity, or I don't want to work at this company, even though they want me because I won't like them.
Yeah.
yeah,
And I mean, like, we're all white presenting, cis presenting individuals. Like
Yes.
we're dealing with a lot of layers and levers of intersectionality that are afforded to us. And I think
Yeah.
that's something that we can't negate. And that's something, I mean, I have seen it among trans friends of mine specifically, and like where it's things have happened and it's how dare, like, I had to bite my tongue recently because it was how dare this job application ask for my pronouns, and I'm like, okay, like I'm like, breathe, deep breathe, deep breathe. If you're gonna throw this much of a stink about it again, goes both ways. Is that something that people want to have? And that's again, culture. I don't. Everybody's like, oh, culture happens by what you do, and there's that really great article that's like, we don't do that here, and I think culture is equally by what you police and what you enforce and what you don't enforce.
Mhm.
So if you have your C-suite doing something that an IC would not be allowed to do at your organization, like I think that's a good internal gut check and gauge. And I know for a fact that I have seen my way out of interviews that have gone that way. And it's amazing when you start asking those questions. Because I always ask, how do I handle a situation if I actually don't agree with the company as a DevRel? That's a question I always ask in interviews. And I bring it to the surface. I'm like, my work portfolio does have political work in it. What is your interaction? So that I do actively volunteer for political organizations. And 9 times out of 10, they're fine. But then, the other times it's usually I've had some other red flag even before that question. Shout out to the company
yeah.
that once told me they needed a DevRel that was a woman because they needed someone to make pretty little YouTube videos.
I really wish you can put them on full blast right now, but it's fine.
I wish I could actually remember their name, to be totally honest, but I don't even remember their
Which
name.
honestly is like the best karma because they're so irrelevant that you can't even remember their name.
Yeah. But
Hmm.
pretty little videos.
I've seen that before. The companies that do that, but they're usually looking for. In my experience, it never ends up working out, and it's not just like young women or whatever that they choose. It's just they're looking for influencers,
Oh yeah.
types who like, they somehow think that if I hire this influencer, that's gonna somehow magically bring us following, and it never really works out, honestly. I've seen it so many times, and it doesn't, because it doesn't transfer that way, right? Like in this in the same way, I think it's important to note that, like, these companies are going to look at the work that you're doing, um, like there's things you do outside of work that, impact the perception of you. At the same time, like it's not like, oh, hey, everything just rubs off, right? Like I can't, you're a big audience on LinkedIn or whatever, or decent anyway, as Erin says.
Indecent. It's actually indecent now that Brian brought up the fact I follow you both, so it's now
But
indecent.
It is an indecent following. You're
you're
right.
indecent following, but like, it's not like you can there's suddenly like this big transference of like, oh, hey, Kelly has this giant following on LinkedIn and now is working at Spot AI, and now Spot AI is super famous, because it just doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
So
But
Although there are
not
people
every
that
single one of
wish.
yes, they do wish.
but like we pulling from the CPG world, right? Back to e-commerce. How many YouTubers and celebrities and TikTok famous folks started brands and white labeled them during the 2020, 2021 years?
Yep.
Most of those brands don't exist now. Believe it or not, if you are a TikTok icon, you're probably not really good at e-commerce. It's not a direct correlation.
There is not a direct correlation, exactly. There are some people who have done phenomenally, but most people, it requires a different kind of brain to run a brand. Whether, like, if you are selling a thing, it requires a different kind of brain.
Yeah.
A good example is Popflex. Like, she has crushed it, and she started with fitness videos, and now she has a Vloglattes, exactly. And now she has a whole brand that, I mean, also it really helped that Taylor Swift was wearing one of her skirts in a recent video, and everyone was like immediately pointed out and knew what it was, and so that also helped explode her business, which I'm happy for her.
Or Hollow Taco, which was Christine.
Yes.
I'm in her Discord as an early fan, and we did like a Discord celebration, live stream celebration when she launched an Ulta. Or shout out to Aaliyah Miranda's of can't even remember her brand name right now. She's gonna kill me. I'm gonna text her and be like, Sugar Dough. So Sugar Dough, actually, this is the true TikTok story. I was actually working with her husband at the time, and she was making the product out of her like garage, and now is sold in Ulta and is in the Ulta incubator program, and
That's
is
so cool.
the first like national sugar waxing brand started by a Black woman. But her videos took off on TikTok. But she had the product. Also, her husband was a founder of an e-commerce company and still consults and is like way up at Shopify and does a lot of that work. So like he knew what it took to be successful and had the resources from that e-commerce background. Also being married to a developer and Shopify developer, if you're a founder, is kind of nice.
That's really helpful.
Really like minor things.
Yeah.
It's like I'm married to an editorial director, so thank you so much for all the times that he has edited my blogs.
Yeah. I have a friend in Michigan that opened a bookstore and sandwich shop with her husband, and her background is SEO marketing. You can imagine how quickly her follower count grew and how much attention that business got early on. And she launched an online store for it because she was my SEO person for all my e-com brands that I work with, and so like she's been crushing it as well.
Some skills do transfer.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Follower counts do not transfer.
Follower counts do not transfer. No,
Yeah.
I have no idea how many people follow me are also bots. So there's always that too.
And it's interesting because
on Twitter, maybe, yeah.
I might also be a bot. So
I mean, we're all in the AI world. So actually, this isn't that just us? Like, aren't we just all agents talking right now? Like, we're multimodal agents, y'all.
We're all. I don't know how much agency I actually have right now. So
I mean, that's on brand for agents as well, though.
Fair.
Wait, you're talking to somebody who works at an AI company. Well, you work in an AI company.
Yeah,
that's why we can joke about it.
Okay, I can't joke about it.
We didn't mention any product pitches. We're good. But if you wanted to get an evaluation or a video capture, jokes. Yeah. I think we know someone who does the local dev for AWS environments as well. But just maybe.
Yeah, but that's not. That's not
your 1 minute of product pitching here. Done. Complete. That all being said, is we were talking about like AI agents and brain, but like that follower account transition words. The thing that I find really interesting is we often use follower count to determine who is a successful one.
Yep.
And I think that's the absolute worst metric. I actually had this conversation at work and related to DevRel today. There was a heated conversation this week at work about should we launch a support forum or Discord? And I said, if it's for support and we're doing a good job with our product and our documentation and our support teams, do we want that Discord to grow?
Right. That should instead be for, third-party devs that want to actually interact with the brand. Like that's why the Shopify partners, Slack and then Discord has always been so successful, because it's people wanting to learn more and it's not people troubleshooting for the most part. I mean, that does exist, obviously. Like I don't understand how this, what's going on with this GraphQL call I'm trying to make. Like it's not working. Why is it not working? Sure. But usually it's not like actual bugs that are being reported in there.
It is hard though, because I'm dealing with the opposite problem. We have a really large community, but they largely see it's a Slack because it's been around for a while, but like before Discord really kind of made the transition into these kind of communities, but like they really only see it as support. And we have a big open source set of users, and they come and you see it as support, and I'm like trying. It's not my strength, honestly, and in DevRel, like building that community part, because I struggle, like, because it just requires so much effort. Like community is a lot of effort. Like the people who do it, I really kind of appreciate the kind of work they do, because to build that, you have to kind of be consistent. It's consistency. It's like every day you're trying to engage them and to come up with ways to like get them to see this as more than just a place to post my problems.
Yep.
And it's a lot. It's a kind of commitment that's really you can't do part-time, really.
No, it is a whole job. It is a whole job. That should not be one of the many things that you do in like a DevRel role.
Yeah.
And I think the other thing is, for those looking to get in DevRel, like we've all seen it, we've all scheduled those posts, and they're like very clearly ChatGPT, 25 things with B2B SaaS, blah blah blah.
Hashtag.
Yeah, and it's like, I think if you're really wanting to start any community or any tech organization wanting to start a quote unquote community, I think the first thing is like start by replying to your LinkedIn comments. Step one, like respond to an email with an original thought. That's the way to do it, because I will actually respond to those. Like you not just like take the time. And I think Kelly, that's like one thing that like we first connected, is because I was like, wow, she does actually really respond. It's a real person. Or why these brands are huge follower counts do take off is, I mean, I'm in the Hollow Taco Discord right now. Like we're geeking out and I'm excited to go see her on live streams on Twitch. Like, that's a nail polish company, yo. Like,
yeah. One of my best friends also every Saturday morning is on that live stream.
Yeah.
Me too.
Gotta obsess about it. Yeah. I know Brian is really into the unicorn glitter top coats.
Yes, I am. So I actually don't even have TikTok. I've never had TikTok. So I've speaking of social media, and this is like, it did hinder me in my search for a new job, was like I'm little by little like removing myself as much as possible. So I was off Twitter the day Elon took over, and I haven't been back. I deleted my account eventually. I've been off Facebook since 2016. You can kind of put together the dates of things. Anyway, and I'm now off Instagram too. I'm not on Instagram anymore. I deleted that account, off Threads, because I just it's I know, but again, I'm in that kind of position, especially at this point in my career, where I'm like, I can make that choice, and it's not gonna, like, I can live. It's not that it's not going to impact my career. It's that I will live with the impact that it has on my career. I'm
You
fine
can
with
live
that.
at the impact. Exactly.
Yeah, I can.
Yeah. Meanwhile, I haven't deleted any of my accounts. I just don't post because somebody will create an account with that same name, and I do have a brand, and I have to maintain that no matter what, which is a shame.
Yeah.
But there is somebody who
me too.
is posting as me on TikTok, and I cannot for the life of me get that account shut down.
Yeah. Yeah. That makes sense. I mean, I think like if you keep it private, if you move things private, to still keep your username. It can't. You
Yeah,
can't. Yeah.
exactly.
hmm
I took the Hank
But I
Green
did
hurt.
that for a bit, and then I just, you know, I didn't have a decent following. But it was especially on Twitter. I had the biggest following of any of the social media, and people just still kept DMing me and everything, and I never checked it. So I was like, yeah,
Mhm.
just kill the account. But
Yeah.
I didn't have enough of a following that anybody's like, you know, was really gonna be trying to impersonate me, I think. We'll
Yeah.
see.
I
Yeah.
have also, like
Erin gets ideas in her heads now. She's
I
like,
was gonna say this is
Yeah.
where the indecent followers come through. I'm like, hold on,
Yeah.
man.
let me his username is available. Let me go grab it.
There are some people who I still will DM on Twitter because that's where I can find them and that's the fastest way to reach them. But like my DMs are otherwise shut. Like people can't just reach out to me. And honestly, most of the my DMs were open on there is just spam. All of it was spam. Somebody has some crypto project for me, and
Yeah.
we've moved past that. I did appreciate having, in that peak time when like people were buying like the fun NFTs. I had like a non-fungible Olive Garden, which got shut down, but it was the cost. It was like $29.99 or whatever it was. That was like the cost of unlimited soup salad and breadsticks. Like it was purely just like it was 2 months of fun, and that was money well spent.
Important things. And I think like I chose to, I asked when I was interviewing and they were like, we are choosing to keep a presence. We don't like that we're keeping a presence, but we're choosing to keep a presence because of the industry. And I
Mhm.
was like, I can understand that, even though I can grumble about it. But I really liked Hank Green actually went on like a live about it, and I caught it, and I was like, wait, I actually really appreciated your approach, because he talked about like breaking through the echo chambers. And if you pull up his Twitter account right now, because I refuse to call it the other thing, he has basically his like bio says, I'll pull it up. It says, this account is not actively managed. It sometimes reposts from other outsources, or from my Blue Sky, a Twitter-like thing built on an open platform, giving its users more control. And then openly was like, I don't agree with this. I don't do this, but it is important for other reasons that I am cross-posting here. And it also am sitting here, but like doesn't really engage your report, which I'm kind of appreciative with.
Interesting.
And so I actually automated mine to do very much the same. And it's kind of like, don't have the app on my phone. Don't.
Yeah, I don't have the
engage
app on
that
my
way.
phone. I like that idea though, because I like the hardest part for me is the trade-off of like I am also leaving money on the table. Like I'm not able to, promote my course and stuff. I am able to. I'm choosing not to promote my course on Twitter, but I also get a lot of like leads from there, and I get a lot of like that is a conscious choice that I am making to say like I'm setting this money aside, knowing that just like I cannot post on Twitter. Like I just cannot bring myself to do it.
Yeah. I had the same thing when I quit Twitter, even though like again my following wasn't that huge, but it was a lot of the views on this site, which it's not like this site's a really, to be honest, a money making venture of any kind. It sustains itself, um, but it was where that's where I was getting a lot of the views. I kind of I kind of accepted it in the sense, I don't know if it's right or not, but I was like, well, the Twitter that I'm talking about was the Twitter before, not the Twitter today.
Yes.
And I don't know that I mean, even we're still up there. That my company, we've actually largely voted to like get off Twitter, but we haven't officially done it yet. The company as a whole doesn't seem to, and part of it is I'm making the case by saying like, look, there's really no engagement there anyway. Like we're
Yep.
not getting anything because we refuse to pay them for the engagement, and then you don't get any. So at least they're making it a little bit easier on us to like make that case, because it's
Yep.
just, yeah. So as this is usually the point in the show where we transition to the most important aspect. I mean, as we talked about, we are the number
Very
one
serious,
show
all
on
business,
YouTube.
no fun.
Yeah, the number one show for DevRel and the combination of DevRel and fermentation. It's really, yeah, we're category leading in that area.
I love that.
So yeah, so this is Erin's time. This is the pickle fact of the month. I guess we're only do this once a month. So what's our pickle fact, Erin?
Our pickle fact actually doesn't even involve real life fermentation. So this is,
Uh-oh.
I'm getting really ish with this too. But have you heard of the Dill Pickle Club?
The
Which
Dill
has
Pickle
nothing to do
Club?
with dill or pickles. But it is
Why is it
actually
called
one
the
of
Dill
the
Pickle
most,
Club then?
but it's the most influential speakeasies, cabarets, and theaters that later became a policy house during the Chicago Renaissance between 1917 and 1935, and housed a bunch of popular American authors, activists, and speakers. It also has a whole variety, different breeds of ferments of reincarnations, including the Chicago Dill Pickle Club, the Dill Pickle Food Co-op, where they do sell pickles. I did Google that. The Dill Pickle Press, which is one of the first early zine houses, and the Dill Pickle Club of Portland, Oregon, which brands itself as an experimental forum for critiquing contemporary culture, politics, and humanities. But there's actually it originally had a lot of regular coverage by the Chicago Daily News, and it is officially a nonprofit since 1930 of Illinois.
Maybe we need a Dill Pickle Club of DevRel that doesn't actually have anything to do with pickles.
Yep.
Unlike a DevRelish show about DevRel that actually is partly about pickles.
I did Google and try to figure out why it was called the Dill Pickle Club, and I actually have no idea, but they really just kind of branded themselves as that. But it's hugely like a super progressive activist room. They actually did a lot of they have 12 plus Pulitzer Prize winners who are members of the Dill Pickle Club.
What I did learn is, as I was Googling this, as you were also reading about it, is there is a brand that created a murder mystery party based around the Dill Pickle Club, but it's with one L.
I like this.
So
I also really like
yeah.
their original sign that was elevate your mind to a lower level of thinking, which feels like my type of people.
Yes.
It was like everything that says about this, like sound like a good time. But apparently there's like a historic landmark in Chicago. Next time I'm in Chicago, I have to learn and hang out there.
Yeah.
But the original location has been shut down because apparently the building's been condemned or something.
I read that
policies.
Too.
Yeah.
So
you
it
know,
says,
you've talked to Erin about your travels around pickles and fermentation. I was like, you could start, here's a side business. You just like doing pickle, like fermentation related tourism, you know? Yeah. Because you're always like, oh, I'm going to go there and see this.
This is actually forget going into politics after my career in tech. I'm going to just go and be a pickle tourister. Pickle tour guide.
Dill tourism.
I can write off all my pickling supplies. I literally have dill growing in my windowsill right here.
I love
I
that.
wish I was kidding. But
probably. It's a business expense.
It's a business expense.
It's research. So you know how to better.
I'm doing a pickle podcast. Why haven't I written this off earlier?
That is a good point.
Brian,
you have a pickle podcast? What?
I'm hosting the #1 pickle podcast, fermentation and DevRel podcast on YouTube. I could write off any
this one.
Yeah.
This one.
First, you need to make money off of this to call it business.
So I have one more comment to make about the Dill Pickle Club. I was reading that the doors, there was an orange door that was inscribed with the words, "Step high, stoop low, leave your dignity outside." And I'm like, I'm here. let me
so if you can't find Kelly and I, we're currently getting the renaissance of the Dill Pickle Club.
Yeah. Almost 100 years later, a little over 100 years later. Let's do it.
It sounds great to me. I mean, and that actually fits the vibe of the show in a way.
I also am reading that the admission the only thing they made money from was refreshments, and they plagiarized books and republished them to make money. So people can get books. I'm like, yeah, these are kind of cool. They didn't make any money on the actual club, just the beer and the copyright infringement.
This
Fear and
is such an
copyright.
interesting article. You need to read. I need to sit down and actually read this in full. Erin, I'm texting it to you so you have it as well.
I was gonna say my Googling this morning when I was looking for pickle facts was great.
This is a
Yeah.
very long article, but there's like a lot of really good photos in there as well.
Amazing.
We should post it in the chat.
I sent it to Erin on text, so you can send it over because I'm not signed
The
in.
Wikipedia page. I think I can drop it.
Oh, Emmett, if you have, if you know, we can partner up because I am not like this is what I do. This is what I do. I make businesses that don't make money. So
I was gonna say
I'm an expert at
Ethan would be another good invite to the pickle club. Ethan and I have shared it. A low calorie lager. Yeah, this is helping. Great, amazing, love. Important
There we
stuff
go.
here, man. This is important work we're doing.
I told you this
I
is
think we
why
started
this
like
is
5
why we are.
businesses here.
Devrel-ish.
This is why we're
Definitely
category
fun thing
leading.
started. But it's actually
Yeah.
just payment and pickles. Or pickle puns.
All right. So we're reaching the top of the hour. I know we could talk about pickles for a really, really long time, or at least Erin can.
Starting the next business.
Yeah. I think, well, you already have all the fermentation stuff, so you're ready. You're ready to go.
Ready to go.
Yeah, I mean, you could start the Dill Pickle Club and actually have it have something to do with pickles. Dill Pickle Club of New York City.
But only serve pickles that are not dill.
Ooh.
Yes. Except dill pickles are the best. Best
Oh, I
kind of
know.
pickles.
But there's like a secret. There's like a secret like password or something that you have to say, which is actually that slogan that I mentioned that's inscribed on the door.
We're gonna counterfeit some stuff. I gotta figure out what we're gonna counterfeit.
I'll help you brainstorm this one.
Perfect. That's great.
Yeah.
We're in.
I think the AI can help you do it that one.
Oh, that's a good point.
Pickle AI.
Pickle AI. Just keep on asking ChatGPT to generate an image, just like more pickles. Expand the fermentation. Let's see what happens.
Yeah.
What if
then we can get Will Ferrell to like be holding a pickle and like more pickle. Okay. All right. This conversation has really gone off the rails, but
let's wrap this. Let's put a lid on the pickle jar.
It's a great tagline, isn't it?
Isn't it great? Yeah.
Yes. Yep. I love it.
Ethan's in Reno right now, so Ethan gets it. Gets it.
Well, that's what we're here for. We're here to inspire people, not about Devrel apparently, but all about pickles. Because all of a sudden the chat just poof when we talk pickles.
It's amazing how that works.
All right, y'all. Well, we are at the top of the hour. Erin, it was great as always to co-host with you, and Kelly, it was awesome to have you on the show and chat about mostly the ish part of Devrel, but and politics and pickles and social media and all that stuff. It was great. So thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
And thank you to everybody who was here watching. It's been fun to chat with you all and talk about pickles and everything else. We will be back next month. We haven't set a date yet, so follow cfe.dev to keep up with the next Devrelish show. We've also got Too Full to Stack, which is coming up in a couple weeks, or is it next week? I think it's next week, which is another show that we run that's all like a front end code focused, and then we've got Ray Camden does his Code Break show as well, which is coming up. So you can keep up with all those shows as well as everything else we do on that site. We being me and Erin and Ray and Nick.
Get to the shenanigans contributor here. It's much better than open source.
Yeah. So we'll see you next month. Bye.